You know, we all like to think that we're in the driver's seat when it comes to making a choice. But are we really? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the fascinating and honestly pretty surprising science of how we really decide. So, just for a second, think about it. That new phone you bought, the last car, maybe even just where you decided to go for dinner last week. You probably think you weighed all the options, made some pros and cons lists, right? Well, you might be shocked to find out who or what was really whispering in your ear.
So let's start with this big idea, the illusion of choice. We're going to challenge that core belief we have that we're these perfectly rational beings when we make a call.
I mean, this is the story we tell ourselves, isn't it? That we're like supercomputers. We take in the data, price, features, reviews, all of it, process it in our super smart conscious brain, and boom, out pops the perfect, most logical decision. It's a really comforting thought, but it turns out it's mostly a fantasy.
Yep, you heard that right. The heavy lifting, the real work that goes into making a choice, it happens deep down, below the surface, in our unconscious mind. It's not that our conscious brain does nothing, not at all. But it's kind of like the press secretary who steps up to the podium to confidently announce a decision that was actually made a long time ago, behind closed doors. So if our conscious mind isn't really flying the plane, who is? Well, it's time to meet the real person in charge, your unconscious pilot. This is the part of your brain that's guiding your choices without you even having a clue.
And to see this pilot in action, we have to talk about this brilliant experiment. Picture this. You're given 4 decks of cards. Your goal is just to win as much money as you can. Now, 2 of the decks are good. They give you small but steady wins. The other 2 are bad decks. They offer these huge, exciting payouts, but they also have these massive, crushing losses hidden inside.
Now here's where it gets wild. After drawing just 10 cards, 10, long before their conscious mind could figure out any kind of pattern, the players' bodies already knew. Their hands would literally start to get sweaty when they reached for one of the bad decks. That's a physical stress response. It's the unconscious mind screaming, "Whoa, hold on, this is a bad idea."
And this just shows you the huge gap between your gut and your brain. Get this, it took, on average, 80 cards before people could actually explain why those decks were bad. Their gut felt the answer 70 cards before their conscious brain could put it into words. The unconscious pilot was miles ahead.
So what's this unconscious pilot even looking at? Well, it's not doing complicated math. It's using shortcuts, a kind of mental shorthand. It's constantly scanning for things like social validation. What's everyone else doing? It's looking for commitment. Does this choice line up with the person I think I am? It's thinking about reciprocity. Do I owe someone? And it is absolutely terrified of scarcity. You know, that powerful fear of missing out. These are the invisible strings pulling our hands.
And our brains have this amazing defense mechanism to protect those choices we make. It's called cognitive dissonance. You know that weird feeling, like after you buy a new car, suddenly every other car on the road looks wrong, and every positive review of your car seems like pure genius? That's it. That's your brain working overtime to reduce that uncomfortable mental static and prove to you that you made the right call.
Okay, so that's the stuff happening inside our heads. But our decisions aren't made in a vacuum, right? Let's talk about the incredible power of the group.
There's this classic study where people were put in a room just filling out a questionnaire. Simple enough. But then, smoke starts pouring into the room from a vent. Now, the real experiment wasn't the survey, of course. The real question was, what are you going to do about the smoke?
And the results are just wow. Take a look at this. If you were in that room all by yourself, there was a 75% chance you'd get up and report the smoke. Makes sense. But put 2 other real people in the room with you, and that number plummets to 38%. And here's the real kicker. If those other 2 people were actors told to just ignore the smoke, only 10% of people said anything. 10%. Our decision to act was basically outsourced to what everyone else was doing, or not doing. So what this really boils down to is this powerful and sometimes kind of dangerous idea. We look to others for clues on how we should act. We figure, hey, if nobody else is freaking out, then there must be nothing to freak out about.
All right, we've talked about our gut and the group. But there's a third, absolutely critical factor that acts like a filter for every single choice we make: our mood.
This is so cool. When we're in a good mood, we tend to be more intuitive. We trust our gut feelings, we rely on those mental shortcuts, and we don't sweat the small stuff. But flip that switch. When we're in a bad mood, the total opposite happens. We become more analytical, more systematic. We scrutinize every little piece of information. It's like our brain's defense systems are on high alert.
And this is so important to get. Your mood isn't just adding a little emotional spice to your decision. No, it is fundamentally changing the cognitive strategy, the actual tools your brain decides to use. A happy brain and a sad brain literally work differently to get to an answer.
Okay, so we've looked at our unconscious pilot, the power of the group, and how our moods call the shots. Let's try to put it all together now and see what it all means.
So, to wrap it all up, here are the invisible co-pilots sitting next to you for every choice you make. First, your unconscious gut. It often has the answer way before your conscious brain does. Then there's your need to be consistent, to avoid that cognitive dissonance. Then you've got the silent influence of the people around you, whose actions or inactions can totally change your behavior. And finally, your mood, which decides if you're going to think fast and loose or slow and steady.
And here's the real takeaway from all of this. The goal isn't to try and fight these forces or turn yourself into some kind of logic robot. That's impossible. The real power, the real superpower, comes from just being aware. Knowing that these forces are at play gives you a whole new level of insight into why you do what you do.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. The next time you have a big decision to make, maybe you won't just ask, what do I think? Maybe you'll also ask, what's my gut telling me? Who am I looking at for cues? And hey, what kind of mood am I in right now? Understanding how you decide is the first best step to deciding better.